Well, this is the first of the new Terrafirma e-lockers, E being electric as opposed to either the ARBs or the ash lockers that are air. Part number TF450. This has been sent to us by a customer for building into a long-nosed diff. So let's have a look at what you get for your money. The locker comes with some nice detailed instructions if you want to have a go fitting it yourself. Excuse the grubby hands, been working since silly o'clock, which are quite detailed. Underneath in the box you've obviously got the cable for electric fitting. You've got a bracket which is going to be fitted to the diff, and a few bits and bobs and a switch. The second half of the switch there, and a couple of washers I have no idea for. And then underneath all of that is the locker itself. If nothing else, it's exceptionally well packaged, which is going to survive in transport. I would guess that this is going to be pitting itself against either ARBs or ash lockers. Obviously, the main advantage in an e-locker is you don't have either the cost of a compressor or the complexity of all the pipes and fittings that go with it. It's just an electrical switch, and a cost saving. So when you look at what's on the market, I guess the Terrafirma e-locker, its natural competitor would be the Ashcroft air locker. And I think what you've got to do is work out what your application is, how much you want to spend, what you're going to use it for, and how much you want to use a fitting. So if you look at probably the main contender, the ash locker, we'll look at pricings in a minute, but obviously the big issue with an ash locker is you need to fit an air compressor, and there's basically two. There's a baby one, that's about £120 including VAT, and obviously you've got to put that on top of the price, which is about £630 including VAT. Obviously if you have two ash lockers you only need the one compressor, and obviously with the compressor you've got a wiring harness to fit, and you've got pipe work to sort out. The other thing about the ash locker is that we particularly like, and okay, we're Ashcroft dealers and have been for 10 years, and so we are biased, I'll give you that one, but on their website they absolutely list every single component part and a price, and their support and backup in spares is second to none. And that is a really key thing. You know, no locker is unbreakable. It really depends on the nut behind the wheel as to whether or not these are going to fail. We have rarely seen an ash locker fail due to any form of manufacturing or design issues. Ash lockers fail normally because they're full of mud, haven't had the oils changed, and haven't been looked after. When you look at the Terrafirma e-locker, this is going to be an awful lot easier to fit. No wiring harness, no compressor to work out where the hell you're going to put it. Basically you've just got a long electrical cable with a switch at the end, and I think this will have a market with people that just want extra traction simply and quickly at a press of a switch. Price wise there's not going to be as much in it as you would think, but certainly it's going to be an easier fit than an ash locker. I've had a damn good look on their website. I can't see at the moment any spare parts listed, but I think, you know, this is very new on the block, and as such they probably haven't got round to it yet. But parts prices and parts availability is something that we always look at, and it's why we strongly recommend ash lockers at the moment over anything else. Now when you look at the Terrafirma e-locker, this is listed on their website, but you can't actually buy it directly from Terrafirma. You need to go through an agent. We are no longer agents for All Makes or Terrafirma, so although we'll offer a fitting service, you'll have to buy it from them and ship it to us if that's what you want. Now, I was at CAM when the first drop-in locker, as it's called, DIL locker, came out, and it really was not the greatest design, and I didn't like them at all. This is a very different ball game. We have a whopping great, looks like about 20mm pin, I might measure that. It's got good access in the sides for oil to get in, and instead of what looks like loads of different solenoids, it's got a completely different system on the top. Little bit disappointing, it doesn't come in with bearings on the end carriers, but they're not overly expensive. Standard RCC 3095, we use Timken, they're around about a tenner each. As far as the air compressor nonsense goes, a lot of people say, oh well, if you buy the ash lockers and you buy an air compressor you can blow the tires up. No, you can't. You'll be there all day. If you want to blow your tires up, don't even waste your time with an ARB compressor. Go and buy a T-Max off Terrafirma and it'll blow them up in about a tenth of the time, and it costs you about 50-60 quid. So what we're going to do now is have a little look at this. I'm loath to take it too far apart because it is a customer's brand new baby, but I'd like to have a little peer inside because I'm a nosy bugger. And so are you as well. You want to have a look inside, don't you? Well, this is as far as I'm going to take it apart. It's really not fair on the customer. You've got a whopping great cross pin in there, which is really good. Not overly keen on the gears here where they've got a flat on the top. You've lost a bit of strength. It also appears to have two sets of shims. There's three sets of shims possibly behind that one. Don't know quite what's going on there. There's three there, yeah, maybe three there. The gear itself, locking ring, yep, okay, and then underneath there's the locking gear and a very strong return spring. Yeah, not as many teeth on the gear or as big as I expect for the lock ring, but nicely machined. And we'll put that back together and we'll go ahead and build it. I think it's all coming down to price and what you prefer. It's nice to see something else on the market, and this is definitely a whole lot different to the earlier offerings of the e-locker from Cam. One little interesting design I've noticed is that where you've got the teeth on the locking ring and you've got the engagement on the collar, it actually does have quite a bit of movement to be able to get in there. And this actually might be quite a good idea because it means that when you press the locker and things are spinning, it's got a little bit of a gap to get itself into. Both the ARBs and the ash lockers are pretty much a perfect fit, and they suffer from, well, all diffs suffer from crash engaging, and it's where the tooth at the top can't get in to the lock at the bottom and basically starts smashing up both the bit here and the bit there where it goes in. So this having a bigger entry is really quite a unique idea. I haven't seen that before. And that I told you about is exactly that. It's 20mm. That's one of the biggest in the marketplace. I think the ash locker is 18, the ARB is 20, and the Terrafirma is 20. So that's quite something. Right, so it's back together. You'll be happy to see, Mr. Customer. I guess now we need to build it. On the majority of our peg casings, we use the earlier type of casing, which has a big steel locking plate, and that goes in there and locks in there, which is where the adjuster ring goes. And we use these because we think they're the strongest, although we have a product development which will be announced shortly. However, when I was getting everything ready for the build for Monday for the e-locker, and I started putting things together, I realized that there is a problem, and that is that the e-locker steel plate won't actually fit on the earlier casings. I've spoken to the sales director at Allmakes, and it's highly likely that this will be retweaked and designed, because this will only currently fit late 1990 plus onwards casings, so it excludes all the early Range Rovers, Discoveries, series vehicles, etc., because that ain't gonna fit. So because the customer is desperate for this, we did a bit of TIG welding over the weekend, and we've made him a special flat cap pegged casing, which goes against what we normally do, as I prefer the big steel lock plate to the hollow cotter pin. But hey ho, we don't have a choice. But that was my weekend ruined. Thank you very much. So on with the build. This takes the standard RTC 3095. Something to bear in mind when we look at the pricing. I've done a pricing calculation, which is later on in the video. Ashlock has come with RTC 3095s already pressed on. That's going to save you 20 quid-ish. So you've got to add 20 quid back into the equation when you price these up. But build this we will. Currently enjoying the bath is an Ashcroft heavy duty 3.5 front cut, because this is going in the front of a customer's competition vehicle. He's got a cam quill locker in the back, which I still will argue is, or could have been, the best locker out there on the market, but unfortunately it is no more. We got a lot of spares for quill lockers and a huge amount of time for them, but he wanted an electric locker for the front because it seems sensible not to have electric in the front and air in the back, and etc, etc. So 3.5 Ashcroft heavy duty front cut or reverse cut crown wheel and pinion. The reason being that all makes don't make this particular ratio. They do everything else, but when I worked for Cam we never did a 3.5, and so hence he's got an Ashcroft one. Moving on. So with the hastily welded up casing over the weekend, so here it is, ready to be fitted and all cleaned out. We've got the shim out so we can reset the height. This is also one of the later type. We decided to put the stronger of the two options. This one has collets that fit into these holes here and actually hold the carrier cap to the base with this double collet. And it actually is a really good idea because it stops the carrier caps that fit here shuffling about. So we're going to start putting it all together. So the pinions in, peg casings in. These are little collars that we told you about that are quite a good idea from Land Rover for once. And the centre itself has this absolutely beautiful heavy duty, very large tooth crown wheel and pinion. The markings on there are the sort of, it's a strange finish, and you clean it off with brake cleaner and it leaves like a stain in the steel. I think it's something to do with the manufacturing process. RTC 3095 on there, heavy duty bolts on the other side, ready to drop in. Okay, so it's all now built up, and when we first tested it we wondered what was going wrong or what we hadn't done, but it works fine. It's interesting, there's a slope here, and that pin that you can see there, that travels through the case onto the back of the locking collar, and that's got a big spring behind it, but when it's forced through, that will activate the locking mechanism. The way you do it is you put the power on to the solenoid and not a lot happens, but then what happens is as you turn the diff, that pin slides in and locks. Now the diff is locked. As you rotate it with the power on, it's all now locked. It's quite interesting. Now if we stop it so that we can see the gap where the pin should be, when you take the power off it will slide itself back into position and unlock. There you go, back where it is. We've got the casing fitted. It's a special one. There's the pin that we really don't like using. There's the 3.5 Ashcroft heavy duty crown wheel and pinion Terrafirma TF450 locker in one of our peg casings. Off to the customer. And in true scrappy bit of paper mode, today's date is the 10th of March 2022, so prices can change. So what I've done is I've just gone down here and I've put Terrafirma e-locker TF250, including that, versus an Ash locker. So the thing with the Terrafirma is I looked on the website, the cheapest at the moment is with Maltings 4x4 at £698, including VAT. Devon 4x4 793, JGS 4x4 784. So I've taken the cheapest because that's what people do. They'll buy the cheapest, and that's 698, which is a little bit more expensive than the Ash locker at 630. Okay, so if you wanted to fit one, you're going to need a TF450 at 698. You're going to need an Ash locker at 630. You can either put a baby compressor at 120, or you can go for the slightly bigger one at 228. So you're basically going to have a choice between a TF450 at 698 or an Ash locker with a baby compressor at 750 and an Ash locker with a bigger compressor at 858, and the complexity of fitting it. However, if you go for two of them, then you only need two e-lockers at 1396, but the Ash locker is either 1380 or 1488. So in actual fact, there really isn't an awful lot of difference between the two, and I think what you've got to do is work out which one suits you best. If you want more information, then give us a ring and chat to us about it.